Good evening. I'm going to call to order the meeting of the school committee for September 14th, 2011. We have, Mr. Hayes is not present yet, and Mr. Vail. Linda. Otherwise, everyone else is here. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Our next item would be approval of items by consensus. Superintendent Benton.
Good evening and welcome. There are 3 items on the agenda for your approval: the regular session minutes of August 31st, 2 out-of-state field trips, Washington, D.C. and New York. And please note, this year the New York trip is a one-day trip because we thought that there was too much traveling for the 8th grade, so they're doing a one-day trip to New York and then the Washington, D.C. trip. And warrants for approval. I suggest that you take 3 separate motions.
Great, thank you. I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes of August 31st meeting and the 2 out-of-state field trips. Do we have a motion? Dr. Quick.
A motion to approve the minutes of August 31st meeting and the 2 out-of-state field trips.
Do we have a second? Mr. Marchese. Thank you. Any discussion? All set. Okay, all those in favor? Unanimous, Linda? I would entertain a motion to approve warrants L6, L7, L8, L9, RE203, RE204, CF4, FS2, and G401. Mr. Marchese.
Make a motion to approve the warrant as read.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Dr. Quick. All those in favor? Unanimous, Linda? And I would entertain a motion to approve warrant payroll of 831. Mr. Marchese.
I make a motion to approve payroll of 831.
Thank you. Second? Mr. Hayes. Okay. All those in favor? 5 in favor and 1 abstain. Linda. Okay. Thank you. Okay. The next item would be an introduction of our student school committee member.
Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Simple
Mr.
question.
Yeah,
Did
Mr.
we get a response to
Vail.
the question I asked at the last school committee meeting about warrants and, how we can approve them retroactively, essentially, if they've, what good does it do to have a motion if they've already been paid and gone out the door?
Could you call on Mr. Ruggiero?
Mr. Ruggiero.
Yes, I talked to the town. Generally, we have, we try to get 4 signatures on the warrants before they go over to town hall for payment. Reading them during the school committee meeting is a formality to get them on the public record, that they've already been approved through the signing before they're processed for payment. So we read them into the minutes so that they're in public record.
And our signatures are what is the legally binding. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ruggiero. Thank you, Mr. Vail. Okay.
It's my pleasure this evening to introduce the high school student representative. She will be one of 5 that will be sharing the responsibilities this year. It's Michaela D'Ambrosio. Welcome.
Thank you for having me tonight. It's a pleasure to be here. The other representatives are Kelly Wilcox, Jillian Harry, Katie Blanche, and Scarlett Salerno. There's a lot going on at the high school this week. We had club meetings start for GSA, Peace Club, Model UN, DECA, Academic Decathlon, Rotary, and SAD. And our ice cream social that's run by the Mentor Leaders will be on October 5th. We opened a school store this year, and it will be selling breakfast and school supplies. The winter musical, the Pajama Games, the auditions will be held October 3rd, 4th, and 6th. And the homecoming dance this year will be held September 30th. And the senior parent breakfast will be held September 20th in the cafeteria run by the guidance department. The girls basketball team will be having a car wash at the high school on Saturday. And the field hockey team and other students are going to run in the Wilmington annual 5K race. And then in sports, the cross-country team won their pre-meet, and they have their first meet tomorrow afternoon. The volleyball team beat Arlington last Thursday. Field hockey is 3-3 for the season, and girls and boys soccer both beat Reading last night in their games, and the football team won against Arlington on Friday.
Wow.
So not bad being in the Middlesex League.
No.
And after hearing about it, after what they were talking about in the newspaper, I was wondering. So that's terrific. Excellent. Any comments? Any questions of Mr. Marchese?
Just being originally from Middlesex, I think this is great. Wilmington's being competitive. I love it.
Yeah, that's excellent. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next month.
Yes.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Michaela. It's very nice to meet you. We're glad to have you. Thank you. And tell the other girls we'll be glad when they come too.
Okay.
Okay? We enjoy having the students. Oh, and yes, you can go home. You don't have to stay for the whole meeting. Sometimes if there's something on the agenda that high school students would be particularly interested in, you might want to stay one of those evenings, but as a regular thing, you can tell the other girls, when you've done your report, you don't have to stay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so
Good
much.
night.
Good night. All right, the superintendent's report, number 1, new staff introductions.
This is one of my favorite meetings during the school year. It's actually welcoming the class of 2011 to the Wilmington Public Schools, and it's a tradition that previous superintendents started of inviting all new staff to come meet the school committee, and we truly appreciate you giving up a night at home with family members and to be with us. I'm going to do it alphabetically. When I call your name, if you just stand so they can take a look, put a name to a face, and I'll tell them a little bit about you. First is Carrie Ann Bartley, who's at the Reuben Street School. She's in the language-based SPED class. She has a Bachelor of Arts degree from Marist College as well as a Master of Arts. Last year, she actually taught in Hawaii, so we're thrilled to have her here. Welcome. Joel Blackmore, .6 Spanish teacher at the high school, and he went to Excelsior College and did a long-term Spanish substitute teaching position at North Andover High School last year. Welcome. Catherine Castelluccio, did I say it right? Yeah. Okay, great. .6 chorus and general music teacher at the middle school. She has a Bachelor of Science from Gordon College and previously worked at Pathways for Children Preschool in Gloucester. We're thrilled to have her. Diana Hill, special ed teacher of life skills at the high school. She has a Bachelor of Arts from the University of Mass and a Master of Science from Simmons. And last year was a Level 2 teacher at the New England Center for Children in Southborough, Mass. Welcome.
Thank you.
Chelsea Lembo is a West Intermediate Grade 5 teacher with a Bachelor of Arts from Emerson College and a Master of Education from Leslie. This is her first teaching position. Last year she was an intern at the Baldwin Elementary School in Cambridge, and we love that she brings both an arts theater background as well as elementary education to the Wilmington Public Schools. Welcome. Mark Linehan, biology teacher at the high school, Bachelor of Arts from State University of New York, and a Master of Ed from Salem State University. And he taught biology last year at Chittenango?
Yep.
Senior High School in New York.
Thank you.
And he had, previous to that, he had taught in Reading. And we're glad to have him here.
Thanks.
Grace McCrary, middle school grade 7 geography teacher, the Bachelor of Art from Wheaton College and a Master of Art from Leslie University. And last year, she was a long-term substitute teacher in Great Falls Middle School. And I only wish you could have been in my office the day she came to meet with me, because the smile on her face lit up the entire Roman house. She was so excited. I hope you're still as excited as you were that day. It's my last appointment.
Thank you.
Lara Mealy, who's .4 phys ed at the middle school. She has a Bachelor of Art from UMass Boston and a Master of Education from UMass. And last year, she helped us out as a long-term phys ed substitute teacher at the middle school, so we're thrilled to have her back. Welcome. Jackie Raffey. For the next 2 weeks, is my executive assistant.
That sounded bitter.
I'm trying to deal with this now. We will be moving on October 3rd to be the assistant to Paul Ruggiero in the business office. And you'll know why in a minute when I tell you her background. Jackie has a Bachelor of Science from Boston College and a Master of Business Administration from Bentley University, so we really know she loves finance. Jackie was the past president of the Wilmington Education Foundation, and if you have been around Wilmington for the 8 years I have, Jackie's been involved in many, many endeavors, volunteer endeavors in the schools, and she always does it very quietly and makes her mark. So we're thrilled she's in the Roman house.
Thank you.
Kendra Stitch, Shashin, speech language pathologist. Bachelor of Art from Georgia Institute of Technology, and a Master of Science from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And we're thrilled that her husband came up here to school, because that's how we got her up here from the south. She was a clinical fellow and speech-language pathologist at this Charlotte Speech and Hearing Center in North Carolina last year. Kelly Torpy, kindergarten teacher at Boutwell. Bachelor of Science, it's from Salem State, and a Master of Ed from Salem State. Last year, she was a long-term grade 1 substitute teacher at Shawshene and certainly proved herself, and we're thrilled to now have her at the Boutwell.
Thank you.
Lauren Whalen, middle school special ed teacher, life skills program. She's a Bachelor of Arts from the University of Mass Lowell and worked for the North Shore Education Consortium last year. Welcome.
Thanks.
Kara Wojak. Kara walked into my office and I said, you know, that's an interesting name. I hired someone when I was in Lexington, a speech-language pathologist, and sure enough, Kara's her daughter. How's that for small world? Kara's going to be art teacher at the middle school, a Bachelor of Fine Arts, Massachusetts College of Art, and a Master of Arts in teaching from Tufts University, and was a visual arts teacher, grades 6 through 8, Stoneham Public Schools. Barbara Chappie, another Roman House resident. Barbara is the new administrative assistant to Kate. She has a Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of Boston, and we stole her from Northeast University. Lucky for us, Barbara was doing professional development, setting up professional development at the Burlington campus, and then that campus closed, so she was transferred to Boston, and fortunately she didn't like the commute and decided to look for a job closer to home, and we're thrilled to have her.
Thank you.
Did I miss anyone? Great. Welcome, class of 2011. We're thrilled to have you. Now go home and get your sleep. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time. Wow, that's a nice group.
I also included in your report just the opening day enrollments. We will be doing an official report on October 12th when we do the October 1st numbers. But now there are 3,690 students in the Wilmington Public Schools.
It's interesting how the figures stay pretty much the same. Very interesting. Anyone have any comments on the report? No. All right. Thank you. Let me see. Our next item of business is old business. Our first item is the approval of the superintendent's goals for 2011-2012. On these next ones, they all require a vote, so I'm just going to ask for the motion first, and then if we have discussion, we can discuss it after we've made the motion. So I would move to approve the 2011-2012 superintendent goals. I would accept a motion to approve them. Mr. Marchese.
Make a motion to approve the superintendent's goals for 2011-2012 as presented.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Mr. Hayes. I'll remind the public, we've discussed all of these at the past meeting, so if there are no questions or discussions tonight, we've already discussed them. So, do we have any questions or discussion about this? No, we're all set? Okay, all those in favor? Unanimous, Linda.
Thank you.
Our next item is approval of the electronic device policy. I would entertain a motion to approve the revised electronic device policy. I don't know which to do. Mr. Vail, you were exactly together.
Yeah. I'll move that the school committee approve the new policy for personal electronic devices.
And we have a second, Mr. Marchese. Thank you. Do we have any comments or questions on this policy? Mr. Marchese?
Last meeting in the discussion, it came about some information about teachers texting students, and we'd asked Mrs. Benton to follow up on that and kind of clarify what's going on.
From what I believe is happening is some of the teachers are tweeting, which is perfectly acceptable.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but no one has...
And using Gmail, which is perfectly acceptable.
Exactly. No one's texting to individual...
Mr. Tracy has spoken to the entire high school staff, and we've done as much our due diligence and have not found that to be happening.
Okay, okay, as long as it's clarified.
Dr. Quick.
Do you mind explaining what makes Gmail acceptable? I don't understand the clarification for that. You said they use Gmail, so it's okay?
It's a public,
Oh,
it's a public email
okay.
service,
Got
yes.
it, okay.
Not private.
All right.
Good question.
I would like to just request that when this passes, that the school system work on a protocol with the specifics and bring it back to us at a later meeting. Okay, Mr. Hayes?
Another suggestion, and this is something that the policy subcommittee kind of broached last school year, and it's something that came up a couple of weeks ago, is for the school committee to create a policy on, I'm losing it, social media.
Yep.
Thank you, social networking.
Did you receive the draft from MASs?
I did. I
Okay, so we
received
need
the
to-
draft from MASs, and I received the draft from Peggy from MASC, so, yes.
Reading just passed that last night, as a matter of fact.
Okay. Dr. Quick?
Sorry, one more thing. If this does pass, is there something that we need to add in there? Because I believe we're going to revisit it again in 6 months to assess this pilot policy. Is there something we have to add in writing, or?
You could
No, I
add it to
think-
the end of the motion, I think is fine, if you want to, in review, in 6 months is what we had said.
Okay.
Who made the motion?
Is
I
that all right,
apologize.
Mr. Veal, to add?
Just procedurally, does this automatically sunset unless it's renewed?
Your brain is most interesting, Mr. Veal. Mr. Marchese?
I'd like to make an amendment to the motion that this policy is an interim basis for 6 months with further review of the committee for continuation.
Do we have a second? Mr. Hayes? All right.
Okay, so I think we need to
But is
vote
that,
on.
we need to vote on the amendment, but is the amendment all right with the maker of the motion, which is Mr.
Well,
Veal?
I still want to clarify, I'm
No,
happy to do
no,
either
we
way,
wouldn't.
but I just want to make sure that,
We wouldn't just stop it because we
No.
haven't done it yet.
well, you're right, so, if the review isn't complete, does this automatically come off the books? I mean,
No,
we
it
take an
stays
affirmative-
on the books, as long as, whenever you've got something like this,
So
it's
you'd
like a
have to vote it
contract
off.
that hasn't been revisited yet, or
Yeah.
hasn't been finished. You go by the old contract until the new one is put in place. So we would go by this policy until something, if we made a change, until we made a change. So, no, it's not going to just stop. It will still be this policy.
So, that's fine, and however we word it, I mean, it's not really, it doesn't really seem like an affirmative vote of the board to do that. I mean, it just seems like it's sort of a sense of the committee that what we're going to do is, take this up in 6 months and see how it's being
We
implemented.
can do it, it's just reflected in the minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the minutes.
It's in the minutes, we can
Right,
just
so
do
we
that.
don't have to put, we're going to trust that we'll make enough of a noise if it doesn't come up, that it will come up. And
No,
I'm sure
I
it's
will
going to
make
come up.
sure
There's
it's on the
no- she'll
agenda.
make sure
I
it's
will
on the
bring a
agenda.
review
Right,
back.
Yeah,
Okay.
So, do
Yeah.
you want to get them?
so let's would you like to withdraw your amendment, Mr. Marchese?
With the proviso that we will come back to it in 6 months.
Yes, yep,
So, withdrawn.
okay. Any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor of approving the revised electronic device policy? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favor, opposed? 2 opposed, Linda, Mrs. Carroll, and Mrs. Kane. Okay. Approval of the Wilmington Public Schools Professional Development. I would entertain a motion to approve the 2011-2012 Wilmington Public School Professional Development Plan. Do you have a motion? Dr. Quick.
Motion to approve the 2011 to 2012 Wilmington Public School Professional Development Plan.
Do we have a second? Mr. Hayes. Okay, any questions or comments? Mr. Hayes?
Just a public thank you to Ms. Burnham for answering all my questions before last meeting.
Thank you. Any other? Okay, all those in favor? Unanimous, Linda. And the next one, oh, that's all on those. Okay, our other piece of old business is the status of the high school building project. We had a joint meeting of the school committee and the Board of Selectmen, which was very interesting, I think very informative, on Monday evening. And the entire school committee was present, and I think it really, a lot was said at that meeting, and Mrs. Benton's going to add some to it.
Thank you all for coming Monday night. I'd just like to report, for the public's sake, you all heard it, the Board of Selectmen voted to place a single question on a special election ballot for a debt exclusion to raise funds in excess of the town's levy limit for the purpose of designing, permitting, constructing, furnishing, and equipping a new Wilmington high school in accordance with the recommendation of the High School Building Committee. Such election will be held on Tuesday, December 6th from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. In addition, the Board of Selectmen voted to call a special town meeting for Saturday, December 10th at 10:30 a.m. at the Lawrence H. Cushing Gymnasium at Wilmington High School for the purpose of appropriating funds necessary for the construction of a new high school. Our next high school building committee will be on September 29th, and we'd like to have the school committee attend that meeting and not have a meeting on the 28th. So, because that will be the night where the high school building committee will be voting to move the project forward. I have placed on the website under Monday night's September 12th meeting the presentation that was given so that the public can see some of the elevations of the high school. I mean, now it's starting to become a reality, so it's very, very exciting. So that's where we are with the high school building project.
Great.
I will, I just thought of one
Sure.
thing. And thankfully, Mr. Hayes reminded me the other day, I probably will be coming back with a recommendation on changing the calendar for the kindergartners on voting day. Traditionally, we have had an early release on that day. So I will be bringing that back at the next meeting, either closing or an early release, I'm not sure which.
Yeah, I've already been asked about that, as a matter of fact. Good for you, thank you, Mr. Hess. Yes, Mr. Marchese?
And just one comment for anybody who's watching, that it's important that people get and vote on Tuesday, December 6th, because without the vote, town meeting's defunct. So you need both in order to pass it. It's not just one or the other, it's both. So it's very important for people to get out and vote. I know voting in December is kind of nil and hardly anybody shows up, but whoever's out there, and if you're watching this tonight, please come out and vote on December 6th, because we need your support. Thank you.
Excellent.
Just two quick questions. So is there any formal process left for the school committee in the high school building project? Are we asked to vote on anything at this point?
You will not be voting. You will, Mr. Hayes and Mrs. Kane will be voting as your reps on the high school building committee. But there's plenty of more places for you to be involved in it as we move forward.
And when is the next meeting that you're recommending that we,
September
Schedule?
29th.
not the 28th, the 29th?
29th, yes. And then there will be a public hearing on October 13th.
September 29th means here,
It is going to be here, yes.
yes,
Yes.
the high school.
Just, if I may, as a point, I would just like to urge the school committee members of the high school building committee and the superintendent to do everything possible. I personally would like to see an affirmative statement that all of the energy efficiency dollars that are offered by National Grid and in the Reading Municipal Light Department and other sources have been fully maximized. It can be a long process to go through with energy modeling and everything else, and this is on a very expedited building schedule now. There are some significant funds available, and they need to be incorporated as part of the design, and I would like to see a statement to that effect, and I would urge all the members to require that their architects and their engineers to provide that information to them before moving ahead on this project.
Thank you.
Mr.
Wait till Mr. Marchese. No, go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, Mr. Vail was invited to a meeting when we did vote, have the representatives to decide on whether we were going
Yeah,
with the leads or the, what was the other choice? I just went right out of my head.
It's in my notes.
Let's see. Mass chips, yeah. And they talked about the whole process, and we will make sure that we have a timeline for you at the next meeting.
Mr. Marchese?
I just wanted to follow up that. It's my understanding that the building is going for LEED Silver,
Yes.
And through that process, just going through a project over at Harvard, and we went for LEED Gold, just through that, you go through all these scenarios that Mr. Vale's talking about, and determining about heat and savings and cost efficiency, is all part about the program of getting LEED Silver. So all that engineering will be done, and once that happens, then you can go and apply for all those grants that you're talking about, all of this money, because all the engineering will be done ahead of time to go for LEED Silver.
The problem is it's an integrated process, it's iterative, right? You don't design the building and then engineer it. In green building, what you're doing is design